A meme that shakes the entire city. There are moments in sports that you don't need to be an expert to feel. You just need to be there, observe, and let the truth speak for itself. Strasbourg, Eastern France, late May 2026. A city usually quiet, famous for its ancient cobblestone streets and the buttery scent from early morning croissant bakeries, suddenly became the epicenter of a story that the entire tennis world is watching. Not because a familiar star just landed at the airport, not because a household name who once won a Grand Slam dropped by, but because of a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines, Alexandra Eala. And when she entered the tournament, all of Strasbourg felt it. Not figuratively, not as a marketing exaggeration, but truly. Dennis Naegelen, the tournament director who has run the Strasbourg Open for over 15 years, expanded the tournament draw in a way he had never done before. In a decade and a half of welcoming Grand Slam champions and the biggest names in women's world tennis, no one had ever made him act like that. Just one name, just one person. That says everything about where this story is heading. If you are watching tennis these weeks and haven't noticed Alex Eala yet, then you are missing out on one of the most compelling stories this sport has created in years. This is not short-term hype. This is not a social media craze that will fade after a few days. This is a movement, and it is growing bigger day by day. If you want to make sure you don't miss a single moment of this journey, subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel right now, where we follow every single step of Alex Eala and the biggest stories in world tennis. Dennis Naegelen, the man who built Strasbourg from the ruins. To understand why Dennis Naegelen's gesture holds such special significance, you need to understand who he is. He is not a manager who sits in an office and signs sponsorship contracts. He is not someone who comes in after everything has already been built to reap the rewards. Naegelen is the person who built it all from scratch. He was born and raised in the Alsace region of eastern France, a land where the red dust from the clay courts has seeped into every breath of his childhood. He used to be a professional athlete, knowing exactly what it feels like to hold a racket under the summer sun, knowing well the weight of pressure in an important match. Then came 2009, when the Strasbourg Open was in danger of disappearing from the WTA calendar, when the entire tournament was about to quietly die like a candle blown out in the wind. Naegelen did not let that happen. He stepped in, through his company, fought for this city, fought for these courts, and turned a dying local event into a globally respected WTA 500 tournament. For over 15 consecutive years, he has invested not just money, but his very soul into Strasbourg. He turned it into a destination where players come not just to compete, but also to find their rhythm, to prepare, and to test themselves on French clay before stepping into the biggest exam of the clay season, Roland Garros. When a man like that says he has never seen anything like the effect Alex Eala brings, you cannot call it flattery. That is a testimonial from a man who has seen it all. And he says it not in the language of advertising, but with the genuine astonishment of someone who, for the first time in many years, is truly caught by surprise. The Eala Effect, when an athlete carries an entire nation. Let's be honest about this, because it goes much deeper than tennis. When Alexandra Eala enters a tournament, she does not come alone. She carries a nation. The Philippines, a country of over 110 million people spread across more than 7,000 islands, a nation united by a love for sports and a yearning to see one of their own compete at the absolute peak of the world. Filipino fans are not your average kind. They are not the type of people who watch highlights the next morning after getting a full night's sleep. These are people who set alarms for 3 a.m. People who stream matches on their phones during lunch breaks on cracked screens over slow connections. In provinces where the internet cuts out right in the middle of a crucial point, they are still there, still trying to watch, still cheering. Every time Eala plays, they flood the comment sections effortlessly. Her name becomes trending on social media as naturally as breathing. They turn a WTA 500 tournament in Eastern France into a national conversation in the Philippines in just a matter of hours. People who had never heard of the Strasbourg Open in their lives suddenly search for the tournament's name, look for live stream links, and read up on the draw. That is not normal. That does not happen to most players, even the very good ones. That is something else entirely. Naegelen's organization witnessed this happening in real time. They saw search numbers skyrocket. They saw social media engagement multiply by the hour. And they understood immediately that Eala is not just a player passing through their city. She is an event in herself, a gravitational force strong enough to pull an entire nation close to courts they had never known before. Eala's tennis, technique, foundation, and the price of truth. But here is the truly interesting part, the part that makes this story transcend fan love and national pride. Eala's tennis is actually worth watching. She is 20 years old and already in the world's top 40. That is an indisputable reality, a number that no media campaign could manufacture if the results on the court were not deserving. She is an alumna of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, and that is not just a nice biographical detail, it is an entire foundation. Studying at the academy of the man who has dominated clay courts for over 2 decades, Eala absorbed lessons about clay from a very young age. She built her game on that foundation, developing a style suited to the slower, more brutal, and more physical demands of clay courts. But let's be honest, there is a gap, and it is a real gap worth acknowledging, between learning on clay as a junior and competing on clay at the professional level against the best players on the planet. That gap is real, and Eala has spent this entire clay season narrowing it. From Linz to Stuttgart, from Madrid to Rome, every tournament has been a lesson. Every match adds a new layer of understanding to her game on this surface. Anyone who watches closely can recognize that evolution. The way she started constructing points differently, staying in longer rallies, utilizing the slow bounce of the ball to set up her forehand, and trusting her movement in a way she didn't truly dare to believe in before. Rome, and the moment everything started to click. Then came Rome, the Italian Open, one of the most prestigious clay tournaments in the world. A stage that every player considers a live dress rehearsal for Roland Garros. And in Rome, something clicked. Eala advanced to the 3rd round, defeating opponents of genuine quality along the way, before clashing with Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, one of the players possessing the most powerful games in women's tennis. She lost, but she did not lose the way people lose when they don't belong there. She did not look like someone who had accidentally stumbled into a big match through a streak of luck. She looked like a player who belonged there, someone who is still learning, but learning very fast, someone who has enough weapons and enough mindset to compete at this level consistently. That means a lot. Her Rome journey could have broken her confidence if it had gone differently. Instead, it seemed to do the exact opposite. She walked out of that tournament with a certainty that before she might have only half believed. Clay is becoming her surface, she said so herself, speaking about how every professional clay tournament is an education in its own right. That growing up on clay is one thing, but competing at this level on it is a completely different experience in nature. There is a clarity in the way she talks about her development process, which is astonishing for someone her age. She doesn't pretend that clay has always been easy for her. She doesn't try to create a beautiful narrative. She is saying, I am figuring this out. I know I can do well, and I am excited to see how far it goes. That honesty, combined with the results she has produced, is exactly what makes the next 2 weeks so captivating to watch. Strasbourg, the final semester before the most important exam. Look at the schedule and you will see that it is almost perfect in terms of timing. The Strasbourg Open takes place from May 17th to 23. Roland Garros, the French Open, begins on May 24th. A single day separates the end of this tournament from the beginning of the other. The conditions in Strasbourg, French clay, French air, the way the ball bounces on the surface, are as close to Roland Garros as possible without actually stepping through the gates of Stade Roland Garros. Every match Eala plays here is a simulation. Every point she fights for, every tense third set, every moment she has to dig deep into herself to find something extra, all go straight into her preparation for the biggest clay stage in the world. Strasbourg is not a warm-up in the cheap sense of the word. Strasbourg is the final semester before the most important exam of her season, and she already has a seat in that exam. Alexandra Eala is in the main draw of Roland Garros, not by a wild card, not as a lucky loser who managed to slip through the qualifiers on a favorable day. She is there by ranking. The World Tennis System looked at her results, looked at her consistency throughout the season, and determined that she belongs to the top 128 best women's players in the world competing at the French Open. That is a significant statement. And Strasbourg is her opportunity to step into Paris with her legs ready, with her clay rhythm established, and with the confidence that can only come from real matches, not from practice sessions. Roland Garros and the weight of a real opportunity. Let's pause for a moment to consider what this truly means. At 20 years old, in only her 5th professional clay tournament of her career on this surface, Alex Eala has earned the right to play on Philippe Chatrier, on Suzanne Lenglen, on the very courts where Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, and Justine Henin etched their names into history. The weight of that should not be underestimated. But earning a spot and knowing how to use it are two different things. Roland Garros demands match sharpness, clay rhythm, and the ability to sustain physical stamina through long rallies on heavy courts when the legs begin to doubt what the mind is demanding. You cannot walk in there cold and expect to play well. You need reps. You need the accumulated memory of competitive matches on this surface, telling your body what to do when things get tough. And this is what Strasbourg provides. Every round she plays here, every opponent she faces, every moment she has to solve a different tactical problem on clay, all deposit something into that preparation account. She will arrive at Roland Garros not just rested and prepared in the training sense, but tested, sharpened on clay, and confident in that special way that only real competition can forge. That is the difference between a player entering a Grand Slam with legs that are just running versus a player entering with legs that have been ready for a long time. The Strasbourg draw, no easy matches. The draw she steps into at Strasbourg is by no means an easy one. Madison Keys is here, Leylah Fernandez with her own story and her own massive fan base. Emma Raducanu, who brings a special energy to every tournament. Maria Sakkari, Emma Navarro, Ekaterina Alexandrova. These are not players you can sleepwalk past. These are warriors, seasoned veterans, people who are here for the exact same reason as Eala, to get ready for Paris. Every match in this draw will push her to the limit. Every match will demand her absolute best, which is precisely what she needs. Because comfortable victories against weaker opponents won't tell her anything of value. What she needs are hard matches, close matches, matches where she has to make decisions under pressure and live with their results. The Strasbourg draw will give her that, unforgivingly, without holding back. And that is exactly the environment a player like Eala needs to enter Roland Garros in the best possible shape. Because when you have walked through matches like these, when you have had to fight through every point, every game, every set against the top players in the world, you enter a Grand Slam with something that no practice session can replicate. That is a certainty forged by real matches. What Alex Eala is changing in tennis. Let's take a step back and look at all of this from a broader perspective. A 20-year-old girl from Southeast Asia, a region with no history of producing top 40 women's tennis players in the world, is in eastern France preparing to compete against the best in the world as a stepping stone for a Grand Slam. She has a fan base that can trend her name globally from their phones at midnight. She has a tournament director who has publicly admitted that her presence has done something for his event that 15 years of careful building could not multiply on its own. She has a ranking that lets the world know she has arrived. And she has only participated in 5 professional clay tournaments in her career. The ceiling is truly unknown. That is not hype. That is just the honest arithmetic of where she is, the speed at which she is growing, and the amount of space that still remains above her. This story is bigger than tennis. Every match Eala plays at a major event changes something. It changes what young girls in Manila think is possible for them. It changes how the tennis world views talent development in Asia. It changes the narrative of who belongs on the biggest stages in sports. That is not insignificant. That is one of the most important things happening in tennis right now, even if the majority of the media hasn't caught up to it yet. Paris is waiting, and this is only the beginning. Dennis Naegelen has watched champions walk through the gates of his tournament for a decade and a half. He has seen every kind of talent, every kind of story, every kind of player. And he opened those gates differently this year. He felt something different this year. Because what Eala represents is not just a talented young player coming to compete. It is a movement. It is a shift.
It is an entire country leaning forward in the dead of night, hearts pounding, watching one of their own stand face to face with the best players in the world and refusing to back down. Strasbourg is shaking in a way it has never shaken before. And Paris is only 8 days away. The red clay and history and everything that comes with it are waiting. She earned this. She is ready for this. And the most exciting part, the part that should truly keep you watching, is that this is still only the beginning of what she can do. The journey from Strasbourg to Paris, from the top 40 to unpredictable heights, this is the story of which we will not miss a single moment. If you want to come along on this journey, following every step of Eala and the biggest stories in world tennis, subscribe to the Pro Tennis 360 channel right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. This is the moment. This is the story. And she has only just begun.